Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Brothers channel, and this is my performance review of the Nike Zoom Freak 4. So this is Giannis Antetokounmpo's fourth signature shoe with Nike, and I'm still super sad that they didn't decide to call it the Antetokounmpo's. Why is it Zoom Freak? You know what I mean? The Nike Zoom Freak 4 is retailing for $130, so unfortunately they did increase the price by $10 from the Zoom Freak 3. But yeah, let's get it started off with the Tracciones. In this colorway we have it's a very dark gray color, right? And it's a solid rubber outsole. It's kind of decoupled, right? The forefoot and heel kind of like outsoles are not touching here, they are apart. And yeah, as far as the traction goes, so when I first started playing in it, it was actually not that nice, but then I played in it for a couple of days and it actually started to get a lot better, right? So when you first get it, it's gonna be like, not amazing, not terrible. It was sticking a little bit, but definitely not a great bite. But then over the course of like 4 days, I started to see an improvement, like a huge improvement in the bite, and it actually started to get really good. I wouldn't say it's top tier, but it got really good. It's a very solid bite right now. So if you're playing on a clean court, you should be fine. But even if you're playing on a clean court, you're probably gonna need to break it in a little bit as well. If you're playing on a dusty court, this shoe does not really pick up any dust, which is very interesting, right? So the traction pattern is pretty well spaced apart. The grooves aren't super close together actually, so that's probably a good thing. You know, it doesn't trap dust or anything. So yeah, it was weird. It doesn't really pick up that much dust, and if it did, I just did a very easy wipe and it was still good to go. But one thing is that it's a very silent traction pattern. There's not a whole lot of squeak. Like when I first got it, it was very, very silent. Once I broke it in, it started to squeak a little bit more, but it's definitely not as squeaky as, you know, shoes that are super squeaky, like the Jordan 36, the PG6, the Hardens, the 282. So it's nowhere as squeaky as that, but it does get a little bit squeakier once you do break it in. Also for outdoor use, probably not the best option. Like these grooves are super thin and the rubber is very easy to move with my fingers, you know, so it's like a thin, soft rubber. So as far as outdoor use, it's probably not a great idea. So yeah, as far as my overall experience for the traction, it was actually pretty good. It has a solid bite, although I wouldn't say it's like a top tier performer for traction. I had a very good time once I broke it in. All right, moving on to the heel to toe transition. So overall, it's really, really smooth. I enjoyed it, right? So here in the heel, we have a nice curve shape and a fully exposed midsole. Look at that, right here in the heel. So there's nice compression. It doesn't feel clunky at all. And then here in the forefoot, we have a really curved shape, which I like a lot. So if you put a little bit of weight into the tip of your toes here, it just like rocks you forward. So when you're doing heel dominant strides, it feels really smooth, especially here in the forefoot. And also we have pretty good forefoot flex, just a tiny bit. It's actually overall a pretty flexible forefoot, even though there is a zoom unit, which is pretty interesting. But also, look, there's a lot of flex here in the midfoot as well. So yeah, there's probably not a midfoot chain plate, and I don't know what's going on. I mean, Zoom Freaks haven't had midfoot chain plates, and also Kyrie's haven't had midfoot chain plates in a while. It's just like it bends here in the midfoot very easily. So torsion support isn't the best, but honestly, like, I don't really mind it all too much. My feet really didn't hurt because of that. Actually, like my feet didn't hurt at all, right? So overall, heel to toe transition is very, very smooth. I really liked it. All right, moving on to the cushioning setups. As far as the tech specs goes for the cushion, if you look at the tech specs, like where it says tech specs, it doesn't really say anything about the foam. It just says durable foam, which is kind of weird. And as far as like saying anything on the actual foam, like usually if it's React or something like that, or Zoom, Nike tells us, right? It says Air Zoom here in the medial side of the shoe. But as far as the foam goes, it doesn't really say anywhere on the shoe, right, what the foam is. But also, if you look at the tech specs, if you scroll down on the Zoom Freak 4 on the Nike website, it says premium Cushlon. So what is premium Cushlon? I don't really know what that means, but I guess it's just Cushlon, maybe a little bit nicer version of a Cushlon. But either way, whatever the foam is, it's a really nice foam. There's a lot of compression, it's super soft, and it also is a nice little rebound back, so that feels very comfortable. And also another thing that I absolutely love is the strobo board, right? So step and comfort, usually also in cheaper shoes, companies put a very stiff strobo board, right? Like for example, in the Luka ones, you know, we have Formula 23 foam, which is supposed to be like a carrier, right? It's supposed to be injected into like a fine line carrier. So you're supposed to feel it kind of like in the middle of the midsole, right? But then you can't really feel it because the strobo board is pretty stiff, you know? So Formula 23, as far as like my first tryout, you know, was not very nice, and hopefully it's nice in the Jordan 37. But anyways, but here in the Zoom Freak 4, they actually, like, if you look underneath the insole, you can see like a cutout, and there's like cubes, right? And there's a very, very large cutout, right? For example, we've seen cutouts like in the Trayon 1, but in the heel, it's like the size of a penny, you know what I mean? It's like, or like your fingernail, you know what I mean? And how are you gonna feel like the size of your fingernail on your entire heel, right? So if you look at the Zoom Freak 4, the cutout is very, very large, and it's basically the size of your heel. And the step and comfort in the heel is super comfortable. You can feel your heel dig into that like soft foam as well, and it just feels nice. And also, it wasn't too soft, it wasn't too mushy or anything. It was just a nice soft compression, which I like for step and comfort. And also, the actual midsole does compress a lot, so that felt really nice in the heel. Impact protection, even on hard heel strikes, was really good too. Here in the forefoot, of course, the court feel gets a little bit better, right? So here in the heel, it's a little bit high, but court feel overall is still really good. And then here in the forefoot, we have 2 zoom units. As you guys can see here in the outsole, it is exposed, which is, I guess, not a good thing if you're like, I don't know, like if you're wearing these casually and you're walking around on the street and like there's a sharp rock. I guess there is a possibility that you can pop the zoom units, so that definitely does, that doesn't really make sense, right? But anyways, it's exposed here in the forefoot, on the lateral and medial sides of the shoe, and there's a good amount of bounce. You know, it's not a bounce where it's like right underneath your foot, you know, like a zoom strobo unit, for example, in the Kyrie Infinity in the forefoot, or like a full length zoom strobo unit. You don't feel the zoom unit right underneath your foot. It's more of like, it's like a springboard or trampoline effect, right? So here in the forefoot, you definitely feel a nice little propelling force, right? Especially when you're doing heel dominant strides, or if you're going out of the triple threat and you just kind of like want to boost forward, that definitely does help. But like I said, you don't really feel all too much as far as like right underneath the foot for the zoom unit. So overall, I was very surprised. I very much like the cushioning setup, and that's a first for a Zoom Freak, right? I wasn't a huge fan of the cushioning setup in like his entire line, but the 4 is actually really, really nice. It's a great combination of everything, you know, court feel, impact protection, comfort, and also responsiveness. All right, so now moving on to the materials. So the materials are definitely a letdown as far as the quality goes. Yeah, it definitely reminds me a lot of like the PG5 material. Like, look at it, it's very flimsy and like very cheap feeling in hand, but on foot it feels great, right? So it's super thin and it conforms to your foot really, really well. And also there's like not a whole lot of stretch to this material as well, so it feels overall pretty supportive. Like, of course, it's not as supportive as materials like a synthetic material or a fused up material, but overall it feels like it's a pretty supportive material. Then here on the lateral side, it's like a textile material. It's super thin, but it doesn't stretch at all. But on the medial side, it's a very open mesh, right? So that'll definitely help with ventilation. But also that's a great design because you don't really need support on the medial side. So they made it like softer on the medial side, and then this material is a lot more supportive, so that definitely does make sense. The tongue has a nice padding, so that definitely feels nice on top of your foot, and also it's a half booty construction tongue. And then here in the ankle area, I would say there's less than average padding, so overall it's a really thin upper. It feels very minimal on foot. It conforms to your foot very well. It feels supportive, so it feels really nice on foot. It's just, as far as the quality goes, it's not the best, right? All right, moving on to the fit. I went true to size and it fits me like a glove, right? So lengthwise, I was good to go. My toes go pretty much right to the edge of the shoe, so it's a very nice fit there. And then here for the toe box, it's a nice snug fit. You know, I wouldn't say it's as snug as like the KDs or like the Kyrie 7 or like the Currys or stuff like that, but it's still a nice snug fit. I can curl my toes up just a tiny bit, but you know, I really like the fit overall here in the forefoot. And then widthwise, it's slightly narrow. So overall, it fits my foot very, very well, and I had no issues with that. If you have a wide foot or you want a roomier fit in your shoes, I would probably suggest going up half a size, or if you knew what, you know, size you were in the Zoom Freak 3, it's pretty much the exact same size here in the Zoom Freak 4. All right, as far as the support and lockdown goes, so for lateral containment, I mean, it's Giannis Antetokounmpo, and he's a very big guy and he needs a lot of support, right? So I mean, you would want to design a shoe that has a lot of support, and this shoe I had zero issues, right? So here in the forefoot, although there's not a whole lot going on as far as like a lateral counter goes, I feel like this material is pretty supportive, right? And like I said, it doesn't stretch at all, so I didn't really notice my forefoot coming out of the footbed that much. And then here in the midfoot, of course, we have the crazy swoosh design, and then here in the heel there is an internal TPU heel counter, right? It's not the most supportive shoe and not the most, you know, supportive material out there. So like if you're gonna compare it to, I don't know, like the Zion 2 or or like the MB1s, which are very, very supportive, then it's not gonna be as supportive as that. But I definitely had zero issues with lateral containment. So I feel like most people will be good. And also for lateral stability, I was good as well. You know, there is a little bit of an outrigger right here, right? The outsole does protrude out. You know, it's pretty sharp as well, and it's a wide base, so lateral stability was good too. And also I had no issues with heel slippage or anything like that. My foot felt locked into the shoe. So yeah, support and lockdown was great in this shoe. All right, moving on to the weight of the shoe. If I remember correctly, it's pretty light, right? 11.11 ounces. That's very, very light. Let's check the other pair. 10.97 ounces, right? So that's extremely light. The average weight of my shoes is around 12.5 ounces. So 11 ounces is really, really light. Does it feel light? Yes. There's like not a whole lot of foam or padding in the material. Like I said, the upper is super minimal, and this shoe feels overall really lightweight on foot. So I felt really quick when I was playing it. Also, it's a very responsive shoe. The traction was really good. The cushion felt responsive. I liked the extra bounce that I got in the forefoot. And yeah, my foot felt locked into the shoe. So overall, this shoe feels really good. And I feel like most guards will like it because of its lighter weight. But also, big guys, you should be fine too, because the support is pretty damn good in this shoe too. All right, moving on to the ventilation. Ventilation is really good. Like I said, this material is super thin, so it doesn't keep in heat. Through this like mesh material here in the forefoot, there's a little bit of airflow, but as far as like the open mesh, there's a lot more airflow. So overall, the ventilation is pretty good, and your feet aren't gonna be that hot. And now, moving on to the aesthetics, I really like it now. It grew on me a lot. I don't know what it is. I really like the swoosh design. I still don't like this colorway all too much, but this colorway also grew on me, which is weird because at first I absolutely hated this colorway. Like the zebra print or whatever for the lining, and like the pink and the purple and like the light gray, just didn't like it. But the colorway is growing on me a little bit. There is like a mint or teal colorway that's coming out that I think looks pretty cool. So overall, this silhouette definitely grew on me, and I feel like it looks pretty good now. So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, yeah, holy crap guys, I really like playing in this shoe, and it's gonna be in my rotation pretty heavily. I wouldn't say it's like top tier though. Like comparing it to my favorite shoes right now, like the PG6, the Wild 10, the Harden Volume 6, like the KD15 Cosmic Unity, I don't think it's like on par with those shoes, just because the traction just isn't top tier like that, but it was still really, really good. I had a very good time playing in it. And whenever I would play with the Zoom Freak 4, I really didn't need to bring a backup shoe. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, the Zoom Freak 4, I'm gonna be testing it today, and that's pretty much all I need. So yeah, overall, the Zoom Freak 4, they did a great job, and the cushion, definitely please Nike. Give us more of that, whatever you're doing with the Strobo board, you know what I mean? Do that also in the forefoot, that would be awesome. So the Zoom Freak 4 is a solid shoe, and it is Soul Brothers approved. But anyways, that about concludes my review. Again, if you guys do want to cop, I'll try to leave an affiliate link in the description box, but that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.